Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So as you can tell from the shelf behind me that I've started packing up all of my books and everything for my move. They're all currently nice and safely in my car, ready to be moved to the next place. Except for the ones I pulled out in my previous video, which I'll link above and below and all that stuff. The ones that I pulled out for my TBR cart for me to be able to read while I'm going through everything with this move. However, those aren't my only options for reading. I also have my Kindle, and I have all of the arcs that I recently got on NetGalley. So I recently got a whole bunch of these that I'm really excited about, so let's go ahead and get started on talking about them all. So the first one I want to talk about is Terror at the Gates by Scarlett St. Clair. So I have a little confession to make. I've actually had this one on my TBR thing from NetGalley for a while. I think it's actually already been published, so not doing great on that, but I am really excited about it. I just have been going through a lot with this move, so I haven't gotten around to it, but I'm pretty excited about it. So let me just read you the description real quick on my computer right here. She is the beginning and she is the end. She is peace and chaos. She is terror knocking at the gates. Estranged from her powerful family, Lilith finds refuge in Nineveh, a district of the city of Eden devoted to sin. There she uses her magic to steal for a living, attracting the attention of 5 governing families, as well as a church, which expects women to remain pious and silent. When Lilith comes into possession of a beautiful blade, she thinks all her worries are over, until her usual buyer dies while inspecting it. Frantic, Lilith turns to the only man who can help her. Zachariah? What is this name? I don't know why Romantasy books need to have the craziest names. Like, I'm sorry, people named Jane have adventures too. I'm gonna put this through Google Translate and just see I'm supposed to pronounce this guy's name.
Zahariev.
Yeah, okay. So that's his name, Zahariev. Is the head of the Zareth family and ruler of Nineveh. His currency is information and his power is extortion, though he's always had a soft spot for Lilith. But when the dagger appears, he isn't sure he can protect her from what's to come. Together they embark on a mission to discover true power running in their world. As their lives intertwine, Lilith realizes he is more than just a friend, but their devotion to each other is a threat to the truth, to the church, and to those who want to tear it all down. It sounds really cool. What really sold me on this was seeing that it was a myth retelling of the story of Lilith. And so I really love myth retellings and stuff like that, but I'm getting a little tired of Hades and Persephone every other time. And so I was really excited to see something a little different, but still kind of in the same vein as something that I knew I was going to like. So I'm really excited for this one. Also, I have read 1 or 2 other books from this author, and I liked them. I didn't love them, but I did like them. But they were both Hades and Persephone stories that I read near the end of reading a bunch of other ones where it was starting to get a little old to me, and so maybe me not loving them is not really the fault of the author, more of the fault of, okay, I've read this a million times kind of thing, and I was getting a little tired of it maybe. So we'll see how this goes. Next is The Second Death of Locke. So I'm not gonna lie to you, I requested this one solely because I saw it was really popular and I thought the cover was really pretty. But then I read the description and then I was sold. So let me read it for you real quick. Love, loyalty, and sacrifice. Gray Flynn has dedicated her life to her mage, Kier. Kier? Gosh, another Romantasy novel where the male main character's name is like practically impronounceable for me. She will be his blade on the battlefield, his healer, his protector. The deep well of raw power inside her is his to use. Gray would do anything for her Kier and be anything for him if he would only ask. When a quest to protect the child of an enemy kingdom pulls them into the dangerous heart of their nation's war, Gray and Kier will need to decide what they are willing to sacrifice to protect their secret. For Gray is no ordinary magical well, but heir to the lost island of Locke, the root of all power. If she dies, all magic dies with her. So that sounds really good. I'm pretty excited about it. Like I said, the cover is really pretty. Like, that's one of the things that got my attention in the first place on NetGalley. So I'm pretty excited for this one. Other than like reading the description, I really don't know much about this one. Like, I've not heard anything from this author before. I've honestly, like, other than seeing it being popular and requested a lot on NetGalley, I haven't seen anything about it on BookTok or anything like that. So I'm pretty excited to kind of go in sight unseen on something. Because I'm so used to books that I'm reading, like, I've already heard a million things about them before I even start the first page. And so it's really refreshing to not know anything before I go into it. So next is Brigands and Breadknives. This is the same author who wrote Legends and Lattes, so I'm pretty excited for this. This seems like a prequel or maybe like a spin-off with one of the characters from the prequel of Legends and Lattes. So we'll go ahead and quickly read the description for you. Fern has weathered the stillness and storms of a bookseller's life for decades, but now, in the face of crippling ennui, she transplants herself to the city of Thurn to hang out her shingle beside a long-absent friend's coffee shop. What could be a better pairing? Surely a charming renovation montage will cure what ails her. If only things were so simple. It turns out that fixing her life isn't a one-time prospect, nor as easy as a change of scenery and a lick of paint. A drunken and desperate knight sees the ratkin waking far from home in the company of a legendary warrior, an imprisoned chaos goblin with a fondness for silverware, an absolute thrumming hangover. As soon as they fend off the rogue's gallery of ne'er-do-wells, trying to claim the bounty the goblin represents, Fern may finally reconnect the person she actually is when nothing seems inevitable. So that sounds really good. So Fern is from the prequel to Legends and Lattes, which was called Bookshops and Bone Dust. She was the bookshop owner in that book, where Viv, the main character of the Legends and Lattes series, was kind of hanging out there when she was recovering in a small seaside town. Definitely one of my favorite side characters in that book, so I'm really excited she's seeing her own story. And it also sounds like we might get to see Viv again, so I'm pretty excited. So next is Battle of the Bookshops. So I know what you're thinking. Megan, didn't you already review this book and read it? Why is this on your haul video? That's because this is a different book. That one was called Battle of the Bookstores. This one is Battle of the Bookshops. Very small difference. I think it's so strange that there's two books coming out around the same time and they have very similar names and very similar storylines. It's very strange. It kind of reminds me of like movies that came out when I was a kid where they were kind of similar, like Bug's Life and then Ants, which were like kind of similar and things like that. I'm thinking about maybe doing a video where I compare and contrast both these books. If you're interested in that, let me know down in the comments because I'm curious what the differences are. Because there's not much differences in their names, but I'm gonna go ahead and read the description for you and maybe you can tell me if you think it's different enough or not. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the description for you and you can tell me what you think, if it sounds too much like this other book or not. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the description for you. The cute seaside town of Portneuf has been the home of Capelthorne's books for nearly 100 years. The shop in the heart of High Street that stretches crookedly down the hill from the castle to the sea may be a tad run down these days, but to Jules Capelthorne, the wonky, dusty world of literary treasures is full of precious childhood memories. When her great aunt Florence gets too frail to run it alone, Jules ditches her junior publishing job in London and comes home to make the bookshop's 100th birthday a celebration to remember. Jules quickly discovers that things are much worse than she ever imagined. The bookshop is close to bankruptcy, unlikely to make it to its own celebration. The lease on the building has been up for renewal, with a six-figure sum needed. The future looks bleak. To make matters worse, the owner of the property is the insufferable Roman Montbeau, from the posh local family who owns half of the town. The Montbeaus and the Capelthornes have been feuded for years, and Roman has clearly not improved since he tormented Jules as a child. Fresh from a high-flying career in New York, he is on a mission to shake things up and, unforgivably, prove his point about Capelthornes being a relic of the past by opening a new bookshop directly opposite, a shiny, plate glass windowed emporium of books. Jules may not be able to splash the cash on promotions and marketing like the Montbeaus, but she's got some ideas of her own. Plus, she has a tenacity that may just win the hardest of hearts and the most hopeless of conflicts. Let the Battle of the Bookshops commence. So I know the other book, Battle of the Bookstores, is the name. It sounds really similar, but the stories do seem like they're different enough. This is clearly a retelling of Romeo and Juliet with some bookstores as the backdrop for the feuding families, whereas Battle of the Bookstores was more about really a retelling of You've Got Mail. So a little different, a little similar. I love any book that's set in a bookstore and things like that, so I am really excited about this too. So speaking of books about books, next is Female Fantasy. So this is about Junie, who is a fan fiction writer and a copy editor and everything like that, who really loves a book series that's basically their in-universe ACOTAR. So this book seems like it's gonna be a love letter to Romantasy readers, so I'm pretty excited. So let me just read the description for you real quick. Junie is living in a fantasy, at least that's what people keep telling her. A copywriter by day and fanfic amateur by night, Junie continues to date and dump disappointing men in search of the happily ever after. But every potential suitor seems to have one flaw in common. They can't hold a candle to her book boyfriend Reich, the protagonist of her favorite fantasy romance series, and noticeably a sexy merman. Reich is a symbol for the life Junie craves and the kind of relationship she deserves. So with a book always in her back pocket, why would she settle for less? But when Junie learns that Reich's character is based off someone the author knows in real life, she embarks on epic quests to track him down. meet him in person, and determine once and for all if soulmates really do exist. Unfortunately, her brother's annoying best friend who doesn't believe in love or happy endings insists on hitching a ride, and like any great hero's journey, it doesn't take long for the trials and tribulations to begin. As Junie fights her way towards her love interest using the skills she acquired through reading, she'll learn an important lesson. You can pursue a fantasy, but you can't always write your own plot. As unhinged as it is brilliant, female fantasy is both a self-aware dive into the concept of genre and a wild, steamy romp. Most of all, though, it's a heartfelt love letter to romance readers everywhere. So I thought that sounded pretty good. So I did really like Book Boyfriend, which was another book that was sort of like a similar kind of idea where it's about the main female character who really likes basically ACOTAR, and then she meets a male main character who kind of is against the book or something like that, and they sort of fall in love and all that kind of stuff. And somehow the book is involved in their story. In Book Boyfriend, it is a kind of fan experience for the series. They kind of are forced to be around each other at. So it's a little bit of forced proximity in the context of the world of ACOTAR, or whatever the book series is in that book. I can't remember what it's called. It's been a while since I've read that one. But in this one, she takes the main male character along on a ride to try and track down the real life version of her book boyfriend. So this sounds like this is gonna be really fun, and I'm pretty excited for this one. So next is Demon with Benefits. This is from a series that I've been really loving. This is like really become one of my comfort series lately. So I'm really excited for this one. I think a good comfort read is exactly what I need while moving. So this is from her Hellbent series, which is a series that follows around a group of found family brothers who are all demons from hell, who come from hell onto earth because they're tired of hell. I mean, understandably, but they're trying to find their humanity, and they're falling in love, and it's just such a sweet series. And this is the newest one from the series. I'm so happy I was able to get it from NetGalley. So let me just read the description for you. They can run from their demons. The jokester of the demon brothers, Meph, wears his grin like armor and uses his humor as a mask, but lately his composure has been slipping, especially around her, Iris, the blue-haired witch with a vicious temperament. Something about her soothes the darkness within him, but he's not looking for a savior. There's no such thing for someone like him, but they can't hide forever. Bitter and haunted by her traumatic past, Iris Donovan isn't keen on welcoming demons into her life, even if they're her sister's friends, especially not teasing, tattooed Meph, who, with his red eyes and devilish smile. After a toxic relationship, she's sworn off commitment, and she's not looking for another Mr. Damaged, but she can't stop craving what she shouldn't want. With the return of the deadly enemy, the past they've been suppressing is exposed, and Meph and Iris can no longer deny their feelings. Before Meph is swallowed by his darkness, Iris must overcome her fears and embrace a terrible part of him, or lose him forever. I know it doesn't sound like a comfort series, but trust me, it is. I'm a sucker for fan family. I really am. And this just has it in spades. But the brothers all work really nicely together, like character-wise, and each book in the series really expands on each character without diminishing them from the previous books, and it also sometimes will act as like a little bit of an epilogue for the couple in the previous book, and so I've been really enjoying them. And so it just makes each book better and better. And so I have really high hopes for this one. So the next one is For the Record by Emma Lord. I really liked her other book, The Breakup Pact, so I was pretty excited when I saw another book from her come up on NetGalley and hit request instantly. So this one is about two rival musicians. So it seems like it's going to be like an enemies to lovers, and also with a little bit of second chance romance. So let me go ahead and just read the description for you real quick. Once the most notorious rivals in the music scene, pop princess Mackenzie Waters and punk rock star Sam Blaze electrified audiences as their bands clashed on stage. But behind the scenes, their simmering tension grew into something more, until suddenly both bands fell apart, and the idea of Mackenzie and Sam did too. 2 years later, Sam has traded the rockstar lifestyle for a quiet life raising the son he didn't know about. Meanwhile, Mackenzie is dealing with a post-operative change to her voice by only singing under a pseudonym. The only way to revive their public careers, a joint comeback album. With fans over the moon and their futures on the line, Sam and Mackenzie face their biggest challenge yet, giving up their old rivalry and learning to work together. But as old sparks fly and new secrets emerge, they set off a chain reaction neither of them could have anticipated. One that proves that sometimes the greatest hits are the ones yet to be written. So that sounds pretty good. There are a few tropes in there that I don't love usually. Like, I'm not a huge fan of second chance romance, and enemies to lovers works sometimes, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on their reason for being enemies in the first place to me. So we'll see if that works or not. Also, I've read a few like rock star romances, and they've been very hit or miss. So hopefully this will be one of the hits. So next is A Bargain So Bloody. So I've already started this one a little bit actually, because I got this one a little while back. I started reading this one kind of in tandem as I was reading A Rose in Chains, but honestly reading two really dark romantasies at the same time was a bit too much for me, and so I decided I would hold off on this one for a little while until I was in a better headspace for something that dark, because A Rose in Chains was much darker than what I typically like to read, and so reading two different dark things at the same time was just too much for me. However, this is a vampire romance, so you know I'm getting back into it. So let me read the description for you real quick. Sentenced for a crime she didn't commit, Samara is bullied by the guards, tormented by the screams of her fellow prisoners. She's resigned herself to enduring her 15-year term until she learns that the freedom she's been promised is the cruelest lie of all. Now she's faced to resign herself into dying in the cold walls of Castle Greymere, or do the unthinkable and escape. But no one leaves Greymere alive, so to break out of the prison, she'll have to use one of the undead. Raphael is the worst kind of vampire with a thirst for blood, the mortal enemy of witches, the same breed that killed her mother, and most importantly, he's unspeakably powerful. His supernatural strength tamed only by the enchanted cuffs forced on him, and her only chance at life outside the prison walls. The deal Samara unlocks his shackles and he'll help her escape, but although Raphael agreed to help her leave Greymore, he never promised to let her go. So that sounds really exciting. However, like I said, I read a little bit of it already, and it was pretty dark. Not like really dark like A Rose in Chains or anything like that, but still a little dark. So I didn't want to read it along with something else that was kind of the same vibe, just because of that's a bit much. But I think now I'm in a better headspace for it, so I can really give it my full attention. And as you know, I'm a sucker for vampire romances, so I'm pretty excited. So that's my latest haul of all my advanced reader copies that I've gotten recently, and not so recently. All perfect for reading while I have everything, pretty much all my books, all packed up in boxes. If you got any tips for moving and packing, anything like that with books, or just book recs, please drop them down in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep chatting while I unpack. Bye!